NASCAR spent millions building the simulation, the metadata, every braking point, every apex, every gear change at Naval Base Coronado, modeled, mapped, fed into driver sims weeks before a single car turned a wheel. And then a 37-year-old Kiwi from Auckland looked at all of it and threw it in the bin. 2 minutes, 14.788 seconds, 90.809 miles an hour around a 3.4-mile 16-turn street circuit carved out of an active naval base runways, jet blast walls, concrete barriers 2 feet off the racing line, the fastest lap anyone put down all weekend. Pole. His 6th career Cup pole, and every single one has come on a road or street course. The simulation said the limit was somewhere. Shane van Gisbergen drove straight past it. That's not a fast lap, mates. That's bringing a cheat code to a gunfight, and the rest of the field never even saw the menu. But here's the part nobody's talking about. The telemetry from that pole lap shows him doing something in turn 2 that the engineers flagged as impossible. Hold that thought. We're getting there. First, you've got to understand what Coronado actually is, because this isn't your typical road course. This thing is a Frankenstein. It blends tight 90-degree street corners with long, flat-out blasts down repurposed jet runways alongside San Diego Bay. The surface is constantly changing, worn military concrete 1 second, fresh runway tarmac the next. Grip levels shift mid-corner. The walls don't run off into gravel. They're right there, ready to end your day. And it punished people. Tyler Reddick, the championship points leader, spun in qualifying and bounced his splitter off the turn 2 wall. Down in 17th, Denny Hamlin, 26th. William Byron, a road course winner, 27th. Chase Elliott, 30th. Brad Keselowski, 29th. These aren't scrubs. These are some of the best stock car drivers on earth. And the track made them look like learners on their first day. Multiple veterans basically called it undrivable, on the limit. So why was one bloke immune? Why did SVG make it look like a Sunday cruise while the field was wadding up cars into concrete? The answer's buried in a country 13,000 kilometers away, and it's the single most underrated detail in his entire career. Stick with me. Here's the decode. Shane van Gisbergen is a 3-time Supercars champion, 2016, 2021, and a record-shattering 2022, where he won 21 races in a single season. 21, that's not a hot streak. That's a different operating system. And critically, Australian Supercars live on this exact kind of circuit. Surfers Paradise, Adelaide, Townsville, bumpy, walled-in, mixed surface street tracks where the grip changes corner to corner and a mistake means offense. While American oval specialists were getting their first ever look at a concrete-lined street fight, SVG had been racing these conditions for 15 years. He said it himself after qualifying. There were 3 or 4 corners we're seeing for the first time of the day, and it's on your heater. Translation: cold tires, blind corners, full noise, no margin, and he was still quickest. That's not talent alone. That's a pattern recognition library nobody else in the garage even has. He wasn't reading the metadata. He didn't need to. He'd lived it. Now about that impossible thing in turn 2. Let's actually open the data. Quick one, before we crack the telemetry open, if you want to be the smartest NASCAR fan in the room, the one who actually understands why SVG is the rabbit this whole field is chasing, you need to be part of the nation. Hit subscribe. We decode the stuff the broadcast skips. Right back to it. Heel-toe downshifting. This is the technique that separates road course artists from everyone else, and it's where supercars driving becomes a genuine superpower. On a street circuit, you're arriving at a 90-degree corner at serious speed, and you have to do 4 things at once. Brake hard with the ball of your right foot, blip the throttle with the heel of that same foot to match engine revs, clutch in with the left, and downshift, all while the rear of a 3,400-pound stock car is trying to step out on changing grip. Get it wrong and the rear locks, the car snaps, so you're in the wall. Get it right and the car settles balanced, ready to fire off the corner. SVG does this thousands of times a weekend on instinct. The braking trace from his pole lap shows him trail braking deeper than the simulation modeled, carrying brake pressure past the apex, somewhere around the 30 to 40% range while already turning. The metadata said, let go. He said no dramas and kept his foot in it. That's the turn to impossible. He wasn't braking for the corner. He was breaking through it. Absolute ripper of a technique. And it sets up the next secret, which is even sneakier. Here's where it goes from driver to driver engineer combo, asymmetric setup. A street circuit like Coronado isn't symmetrical. It's loaded with one direction of corners more than the other, plus those long runway straights. So you don't set the car up evenly, you bias it. Different spring rates, different damper settings, different tire pressures corner to corner, deliberately making the car want to rotate one way. Trackhouse Racing and SVG dialed in a machine that was, in his own words, unreal fast once the track rubbered up. And then there's wall-grazing, the dark art. On a true street circuit, the fast line doesn't avoid the wall, it uses it. The closer you run to that concrete on exit, the straighter you can make the corner, the earlier you get to full throttle. We're talking inches. American oval racers are conditioned to fear the wall. It's the enemy. Supercars drivers are trained to dance with it. That fearlessness is exactly why SVG could run a line the field physically would not commit to. He treated the barrier as the edge of the track. Everyone else treated it as a threat, but here's the brutal twist nobody saw coming, and it's the part of this story that actually breaks your heart a little. Because being the fastest man at Coronado didn't mean he won. Let me explain, and this is exactly the stuff the big networks won't tell you straight. We're decoding what really happened, not selling you a highlight reel. If you value real telemetry over fluff, join the 97 Nation. That's his car number, the number 97 Red Bull Chevy, and subscribe right now because what I'm about to say flips the whole narrative. SVG did not win the Andoril 250. Lap 32 restart. The field fans out 3 wide into turn 1, exactly the chaos a tight street circuit creates. Contact exiting the corner triggered a violent multi-car wreck that collected his Trackhouse teammate Connor Zilish, Austin Hill, and the pole sitter himself. Done. Out in 38th, Corey Heim went on to win his first ever Cup race for 23x1. A real shame, SVG said. The Red Bull Chevy was unreal fast once the track kind of rubbered up. And that's the whole point. The fastest car on the property got wiped out by other people's mistakes, not its own pace. This is the difference between speed and result. The metadata can't model another driver shoving you into the concrete on a restart. SVG decoded the track perfectly. What he couldn't decode was the carnage of 38 other blokes who hadn't. So let's be real about what we actually witnessed at Coronado. The result sheet says 38th. The truth says he was the only driver who turned an undrivable track into a metronome. Pole by genuine pace, quickest in conditions that put the points leader in the wall and buried a generation of road course specialists outside the top 25. Here's my prediction, and I'll plant a flag on it. Street and road courses are no longer competition. For the rest of the field, they're a formality. SVG is the rabbit, and the entire Cup Series is running second. The moment a road or street race appears on the schedule, the question isn't who wins, it's whether anyone can stop him from beating himself. When Coronado comes back around, and it will, this man is the favorite before the trucks even unload. Book it. The Supercars to NASCAR pipeline isn't a novelty anymore. It's a blueprint, and he's the proof of concept. So here's your challenge. Drop it in the comments. I read everyone. If SVG had survived that lap 32 wreck, who, if anyone in the current Cup field, had the pace to beat him straight up at Coronado? One name. Defend it. Hit that subscribe button, join the 97 Nation, and we'll see you in the next Decode. Flat out, no dramas. Cheers.